time to have a look at the month of October. And what seems to be on everyone's mind, and perhaps especially the country, the government, the bigger picture of things, is it's all about money. It looks like financially things are beginning to get more and more challenging. It's not so much about the squeeze that's on in the charts, it's about there are too many uncertain factors moving around. There's a lot of change, uncertainty, and so on. But it's a little bit like if we, for now, just continue to ride this bunch of waves, the ups and downs of all the waves, we're going to be more or less okay. In fact, given the fact that it's so unstable, if you like, and so full of many different factors pulling on it, it still looks relatively prosperous. For all sorts of reasons, perhaps the wrong reasons. South Africa has not been experiencing the same level of inflation that has been seen much of elsewhere in the world. And it's that type of thing that somehow it's way better than it could be, at least for a while. And it does seem as if, despite the fluctuations and the various ups and downs that I've been describing, we might even see something like either or both of an improvement in the currency, just an improvement, not major shakes, but perhaps related to that, improved interest or investment in the country and other benefits coming from far and wide. So that's something that's going to both boost the economy and then also do things like further increase the recovery of travel and tourism. In fact, we're going to see much further evidence of that in this month ahead. There's a lot of foreign connections, mostly to do with the tourism industry in the chart, but there do seem to be even much more direct things like investments or important new projects in that way. What is especially challenging in the chart for the month ahead is, not surprisingly, the area of the chart associated with the government and the president, to a less extent because he's got his own area of the chart, which we'll be talking about as well in this. Basically, that area is also looking really unstable, just in the sense that there are lots of sudden developments and changes that arise out of those. They're not huge, magnificent, earth-shattering changes. It's not impossible for such things to happen, but astrology is usually not talking at that scale. And they may very well involve the president and may very well involve his ongoing challenge of whatever went down at his game farm and the ongoing issues, investigations, and outcomes that seem to be emerging in the month ahead. It must be said that with regards to how all of that goes, astrologically speaking, it's the faster the better. If he allows that to drag out for a very long time, months and months, it looks worse and worse in his chart and in our charts too. If it can be resolved within a month, and say, we're talking about the end of October, where most of it is on the table, then the outcome's likely to be much better for him. But it is also looking like a lot of change is in the offing. I've used the word unstable a few times, and I don't mean in the sense of like politically unstable, so much as I mean that things don't stay the same for very long. There are numerous different developments leading one after the other. Of course, say with regards to the president stuff, clearly some of it is things that we, the public, are never going to know about, but there certainly will be, as usual, the watchdogs of our press and the pressure on openness and transparency that continues, that hopefully will make a big impact, because, as I said, there do seem to be developments in the government itself that they bring change, but they could also bring a whiff of fresh air, and we can actually see, therefore, some positive developments in that regard. There could be at least one significant change that does shake people up or cause a bit of a stir in our world. With regards to President Ramaphosa, the whole Phala Phala debacle might cause a number of big changes in his life. Certainly, there seem to be extreme financial challenges going on, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if we learnt about both tax implications and exchange control regulations that might arise out of whatever went down on his farm, even just the transactions that he talks about, and that could have significant financial implications for him. Then it may be as much as he decides or has to give up the farm as a business, because it does look like the things that he loves are strongly challenged. Any kind of side businesses, as that could easily be said to be, are actually going to be shut down for him or lost in some kind of way. It's very, very likely. So whether that's through a change in the law, anyway, such a law does exist, but presumably it's going to be argued how much it applies to him if that's the route they take. But certainly it does look like that's an avenue of concern for him, and financially. And on the whole, his chart also looks very change sensitive at this time. I think he will be going through quite a challenging patch, not only financially, but in terms of what it's all about for him. And I think the deeper effect on him is not so much the fact that all of this happened, but it's the fact of what it reveals about him as a person, how he runs his life or he runs his business or whatever it may turn out to be. But I think that's where he's going to face a lot of self-examination. The chart describes it as his path is what is challenged, and how he understands his path to be. And hopefully, with a bit of luck, that means he's going to be rattled enough to maybe take better charge of what his path is all about. But I suspect that would be a bit of wishful thinking. His chart is looking pressurized and imposed upon from every different angle, and he's not known to be a person who responds with brilliance to that kind of pressure, but rather find a way out. And that the likelihood of that, while strong, remains fairly tenuous over the course of this chart and probably the next couple of months. He is on a knife edge. There is a lot of pressure. It doesn't look like it's the kind of pressure that ends everything for him in terms of his career, his leadership, or whatever it may be. But certainly the changes are significant enough to raise many eyebrows. The developments that come out of the Phala Phala case, significant enough to raise many eyebrows equally. And the changes that ensue may yet be bigger than most of us think, even if it's not the ultimate one, the chop. So let's see how fast that develops. Remember, for the president, it's the faster he can make all of this go through the system, the better it's going to be. So stop dragging over the heels, allow the process not only to happen, but try and ensure that it gets prioritized so that it happens and gets sorted out, and that the South African people and the nation, and hopefully yourself, Mr. President, could end up sleeping a little bit better at night. Aries, for October, it looks like things are moving ahead more and more, which is a good thing. For the most part, that's actually going to be beneficial financially, but the charts also indicate this is a time to be dealing with any financial baggage and other unfinished business. So much the better that there's more coming in, or it's flowing more smoothly this month, because it allows you to sort out some of what you've been carrying and even things out in that way. Although there's a lot of progress this month, it isn't about the rewards and the results that come in from that. It's about the new connections and the people in many ways, Aries. That's not only new connections and people in terms of work, but also in terms of personal life. Many Aries will find an opportunity to forge new friendships at this particular time. That's going to really lead to perhaps, whether it's something as simple as it's only because of the friendship, or actually bigger opportunities in some way. But there is a lot of choice that's on your plate this month, Aries, and you're going to have to try be careful to not choose everything. Make wise choices about what you need to do at work. Make them based on the connections and expansion that's going to allow you to do in your personal life. Develop and build important friendships. This is a time to think in the long term for that kind of thing. Taurus, it could be time to throw just a little bit of that caution to the winds and let things start happening. In your work environment, there's new opportunities or existing opportunities that require you to just adapt a little bit of how you're going about things, what you're willing to do in order to let it happen. It's time to be willing. In fact, it's time to kind of go to the edge and do things in a way that you wouldn't have done before, or that perhaps a sensible person might not always be willing to do. It's time to be a little not so sensible as well. Really, it's not so much about risk taking as about injecting the new into everything that's going on around your professional life at the moment. This could also relate to other things you choose to put it into, like it's still going to be a good time to make changes around the house if you want to renovate or do anything even as radical as that. But most importantly, it's about new ways of doing things, new ideas, and maybe new what's important about it. You're not going to be able to draw in the financial results or the material security that's so important at this time, but that's the end result, hopefully, of what you establish at this time. So on the whole, it's a great time for getting things together and getting things in action, making things happen that way, but not yet a great time for expecting the results. Just hang in there. Gemini, it's also all about friends for you this month, but other people as well. Neighbors, people around you in your family. It's all about rushing around, involved in everyone else's business, mostly because you're trying to help. And that's great. You've just got to be careful that that's not at your own expense. There is some sign that you're not seeing everything absolutely clearly, and you may very well be sacrificing some of what's good for you for the sake of someone else without realizing that you're actually shooting yourself in the foot a little bit. Don't make unnecessary compromises. Don't try and be Mr. or Ms. Nice Guy just because that's the thing to do. Although that might be more preferable for Gemini's social sign, it nevertheless might be time to take a bit of a hard line when it comes to other people around you at this time. That may even be true for friends, although for the most part, this month, friends are the source of good things and good times. There may be a little bit of conflict there, or simply, again, the necessity to draw the line, take the hard line, and make sure that you don't get walked over. Just a little bit of selfishness combined with your usual sociable, friendly manner will keep things in balance and get things working much more successfully for you. Don't allow your little bit of blindness at this time get in the way of putting yourself forward. That's what's going to work best. Cancer, it would seem like this month some things are popping up and cropping up that you might have forgotten about and maybe wished would never pop up in your life again. So that means it is time to deal with a bit of old unfinished business, perhaps some undesirable business, and mostly just stuff that is too slow, boring, or been there, done that. But it does mean you have to be willing to take a few steps back right now in order to go a good few steps forward. And those few steps forward are available to you. In fact, despite having to deal with all that unfinished stuff, it's still a strong time for you in terms of putting new goals forward or how you can benefit from your circumstances and relationships at this time. So in a small way, that's the best of both worlds. It's like the price you pay is that you've got some homework to do, finishing unfinished business. The benefit you get is that there's plenty of new business that's going to work for you. You will need to make yourself somewhat the center of attention in order for things to really happen. Don't be shy to stand out in that kind of a way. It might also be a time when you're not getting quite as much acknowledgement as you would like. And you've got to be careful not to make too much of that because the people around you are not seeing it the same way that you are. You just need to chill a little bit. Things can get quite intense, but it's all good. Leos, things continue to get better and better. The doors are opening up for you. With a bit of luck, the whole Red Sea is parting for you, and things that seemed impossible are beginning to look a lot more possible. It still requires you to step up, to take some forceful approach, use your natural leadership, your natural charm, and your natural ability to be somewhat in charge of everyone around you to make sure that things go your way. This is a time when you need to make a clear plan and for yourself stick firmly to that plan, as well as keep the attention on yourself. Remember, if this is about you, then you can deal with whatever, whether it's a help or hindrance that comes from others, if you understand that you're in charge of what's really going on here. This is also a good time for money, but the problem is that it seems that it needs to go out as fast as it's coming in, and perhaps needs to be spread around a little bit. You might be depending on lots of people. Doesn't mean it's too many people, could be, and you need to perhaps look at that. Just be careful that you know where all of that money is going, and then perhaps you'll be able to start accumulating some of it yourself if you stop handing it out so much at this time. Virgo, it is time to take stock of some financial matters, perhaps taking stock of the financial situation as a whole at this time. It's not looking bad, but it does look like it needs a little bit more discipline. You too could also be putting out more than is necessary. It could also be that someone around you has either led you to believe that you need to be letting go of some of those resources, or is just in the fortunate position of you just think so. It all boils down to you being unnecessarily dependent on others for resources at the moment, and that is what's affecting you financially. Worst case scenario is you could be giving away too much money to such a person, and that would be where you'd need to actually rein yourself in some way. But it's not only about money. Virgos, this time is also about other resources. This is a time of resourcefulness for you. The things that you've needed for a while, the things that you've wanted, this is time to bring in those things that are going to make it easier for you to pursue your goals. In fact, some important ambition or professional goal may very well come to fruition during this time, either in terms of being able to do it because the resources are available, or it's succeeding and actually bringing resources in for you. If you've got something already underway, this is the time to start expecting some results, and some good results at that. Libra, in some way, it's time to start thinking about your personal world, your personal environment that you find yourself in. There are suggestions in your charts that things are not ideal for you. It doesn't mean anything is working against you. It just means you're in a situation, perhaps in more than one areas of your life, where it feels as if you're unable to thrive. It is important to know that for the most part, this is a temporary situation. So if you're not able to make any changes, or if it isn't appropriate, you just got to hang in there and push through, keep on working at it, and you're actually going to end up on the other side where things look better anyway. But if you are able to make some changes, this might be a time to reconfigure some of your goals and some of your desires with regards to what you want in the bigger picture. It could, in general, be a great time to actually set yourself some new goals, whether they're personal or professional, doesn't really matter, but to give yourself a sense of something you're working towards at the moment, and that will help you figure out how you should reconfigure things, what you need to do in order to do that, and how you need to cut to the quick and get to the important choices or decisions that need to be made. As usual, you're wavering up and down between two things. Could be, should we do what I want, should we do what you want, but whatever it is, you've got to make a decision, make it, and go for it. Scorpios, it could be that something is owed to you, but whether or not it's directly owed to you, things are coming for you, coming to you anyway, and that's primarily good things that we're talking about. Don't really mean things are coming to get you. No, it's time for a little bit of your ship to come in, or other benefits that have been waiting to come your way for quite a while. So that's why it could go from debt to it's just about things worked out your way. But this is also a good time to kind of reinvest, reconnect that stuff to your longer term goals, your longer picture. This is a great time for everything being set up for the long term on the whole, from investments to plans. This is how it's going to pan out in the end. It's a little bit like things are working for you through the people around you as well. And it looks like, be it friends or other associates around you, might be the source of some of these opportunities. However, it also looks like you're going to have to sort some things out there, and there are some warning signs in your chart of the possibility of being misunderstood or getting into a conflict situation with someone in possibly a position that's quite important for your outcomes. So be careful not to shoot yourself in the foot, and be a little bit more tactful where it might be appropriate. Then you'll get things to go more your way. Sagittarius, you absolutely have to indulge and get selfish and do all those Sagittarian things you love to do at this time. Travel, get out there, do your own thing, do some things that are a little bit more independent at this time. It's like it's time to let go, and there's nothing you like more than that. Party time for Sagittarians. That could be especially good for your relationships at this time. And you could be forging new relationships as well as benefiting from the love side of relationships. This is time to get down to what really binds you together, especially with important one-to-one romantic relationships, but also with friendships and other people around you, even children, and really just get back to what really matters about this relationship and around this connection, because that's where a lot of the gains and rewards are coming from. The travel thing is a big thing for Sagittarians at the moment. This is a great time to be looking for opportunities to get away, even if it's something small. And if it can't be travel, then it's really just about exposing yourself to something new and different and a little bit exotic. You need new input. You're probably going to find that you're meeting new people that are going to give you the opportunity to get some of that new input. Like many this month, you're torn a little bit between two options or decisions that need to be made. You know what's important right now, that Sagittarian stuff of, am I going to learn something new? That's how to make your choice this month, Sagittarius. Capricorn, this month your challenge is the challenge of the mundane. You have to deal with a lot of boring, everyday stuff that is probably the very last thing you feel like doing at any particular time, although you are known to be pretty good at that kind of thing. Just a question of getting it done, making it happen. That's what's going to get it out of the way as soon as you possibly can. This is also a great time to put a lot of energy into your personal relationships, whether that's new relationships that are underway or that you can expect to begin at this time, or existing relationships. It is a good time for new relationships, but also for taking those existing relationships a lot further. This is a time where it's all about your bonds with people that you love and people who love you, and also figuring out those who don't, and maybe bringing to a close some relationships which are draining you of energy or casting a little negativity into your life. This is a time where relationships are the strongest net around you. That's where your energy really needs to lie, and where you can trust good things to emerge. Many will find the opportunity to make something permanent, be that a relationship or an agreement with someone else, sign on the dotted line. Aquarians, it's also a time for you to be focusing your energy into your relationships. Perhaps those relationships with Capricorns are going to turn out to be the most important ones of all. But in all your relationships, be it those or others, this is also a time to be careful not to become stuck, and also a time to look at where are we a little bit stuck in this relationship at this time. It's not a time to bring it to an end. That is not the solution right now. It's really a time where growth can happen, progress can happen relatively easily. You might also find that you're the one who's holding yourself back in the relationship, finding all ways to kind of loosen up the wheels and break whatever is stuck is going to make these relationships really go forward for you. The same then applies in the less personal relationships, what you're trying to do for others and the world at large, which seems to be pretty important at this time, as it usually is for you. And you'll also find that in some ways you might have rules or regulations, some kind of structures that are impeding on you at the moment, and you're going to have to figure out ways of working with them rather than ways of breaking them down. That's going to be the solution to most of what's holding you back pretty much anywhere at this time of your life. How can I work with this to get to the goal? How can I turn what seems to be an obstacle into an actual method that I'll use in order to get there? Pisces, it's one of those times when you just got to look at who's scratching who's back. Whether it's people that you're in relationship with or people that you just might depend on professionally, suppliers or any of those kind of things, you need to reassess who's really gaining what, because it does look like you might be allowing some things to slip through your fingers, which could actually benefit you enormously at this time. Especially if we're speaking about professional things and supplies and so on, then we're also looking at opportunities to benefit from far away, gains from far and wide, as long as you act a little bit selfishly or put an aspect of yourself forward that looks maybe a little bit more forceful and in charge, then you may be feeling it's going to work. It does look like it brings the results in for you. You might also find opportunities this month to learn new things that again require a slightly more selfish approach. You won't be able to see the benefit of it for anyone else around you, but the benefit to you is unmistakably there. So then also in terms of your personal relationships and so on, don't be shy to take the upper hand on the one hand, and also to make sure that some of what you need is what's important this month. Your choices are what's leading the choices of more than you, the family, or whatever it may be. And in that way, building your Pisces strength, you're going to be able to get the family and those that you love to benefit along with you from this time of greater selfishness. Have a good